Hello and welcome to mycadsite.com, and we're going to do another exercise here, and this one offers some new commands as well as reinforcing some older bits of knowledge you already have in terms of absolute points and relative points. And we'll be looking at the rectangle command as well as trim, offset, and extend, and these are all commands that you will use a lot in your daily drafting. So it's good to get these under control, get to know them very well, so that you'll be able to be a successful CAD person. So starting with the first rectangle on the left, this should all be straightforward using absolute points from 1,2, 3 to 3,2, and etc. all the way around back to the beginning. And that's your first rectangle using 4 separate lines. The second one, just to the right of it, we're going to use the rectangle command for that. And what that needs is 2 points, a start point for one corner and then the points for the opposite corner. So this time we'll start the rectangle command just by typing in REC, and the starting point in the bottom left corner is 4.5, 2. And so we type that in, and then it asks for the other corner point, and in this case it's going to be relative to the first one at 2 units over in the X and 2 units up in the Y. So we enter that at 2, 2 and press enter, and that gives us a new rectangle. And the great thing about drawing rectangles is that it's going to be much quicker than drawing 4 individual lines, and also it's one object versus 4 objects. So you can see that selecting the one object for the rectangle is very quick and easy if you're going to move it or copy it somewhere, whereas if you use separate lines you have to select all 4 separate lines before you can move them, and it's just a little more time consuming. And that's the one thing we don't want in AutoCAD work. The next one we're going to do is the third rectangle, and this one we're going to use the multi-line command, which isn't something I use a lot, mainly because I don't have full command over the lines. And you'll see that you're going to be setting the width of the lines, known as the scale. So you start with the ML for multi-line, and then you pick S for scale to set the scale, which is currently at 0.25, and we want it at 0.15. So enter in that and press enter, and now we can start it. So at 8, 2, and we're going to go over 1.5 units in the X. So once again using the relative coordinates at 1.5, 0. And then we go up 1.5 units, that's 0 in the X, 1.5 in the Y, and back. And if I was to go back to my original point, you would see that it doesn't quite close in the bottom left corner, meaning the outside lines won't close. So what I want to do instead is use the close command to enter in that so that all lines get closed and it ends up looking nice and clean. But once again, that's not something you might be using, and there are certain areas of drafting that will use it. And now we're going to go into the trim command. So we're going to start by drawing a vertical line and then a horizontal line that intersects past that line. And what we want to do is trim off the top part of that line, right where the cursor is. And to do that, we need to start the trim command, and that's just TR enter, and then we select the cutting edge first. And it's always important to know the order you select. So I'm selecting the horizontal line, and that's my cutting edge, and I press enter, and then it asks for the object to trim. In this case I want to trim off the top, so I select it, and it trims it off clean to where that horizontal line intersects the vertical line. And a similar command to that is the extend command. And once again I will start this by drawing a horizontal line, and then I will draw a vertical line. And what we're going to want to do is extend the vertical line up to the horizontal line. So now you see we've got the two lines and there's a gap in between the two. And so I start the extend command and pick the boundary lines first. Press enter and then pick the line I want to extend, and it extends right to it. And if I zoom in, you can see that it's very, very exact on how it trims it. Now next thing I want to do is draw a circle and then offset it. And so I put the circle, I enter in the center point, and then I enter the radius, in which case 0.5. I can just press enter because that's the default. And now I use the offset command. And once again, this is a command that I use a lot, and I'll set the offset distance of 0.125, and then I select the object and then offset it to the outside by picking outside of the circle. So the final thing to do is to turn on some OSNAPS so I can draw one more line from the center to the midpoint of another line. So now once again I can just start the line command, and you see I'm at the center of the circle to the midpoint of that line. So these are all commands you'll be using a lot, so learn them, love them, live them.